Good morning, intuitives. Wanted to get a video out before work, and before I get into today's topic, I wanted to thank all of you who take the time to watch this video and for taking the time to comment, especially those of you who say how my videos have helped you, and as I've mentioned before, that's why this channel exists, is to help others. That this is my only outlet to do so at the moment. And, I appreciate you liking my unique style. As I've said before, I'm essentially a comedian. The style of this channel is to explain some deep topics, some dark topics with a lot of humor and satire interjected, and, satire and use of things in pop culture, as well as personal stories of mine and or amalgamations of my personal stories and similar stories that others have told to me. And I often satire them as well and use them allegorically. In essence, I know I'm a talentless hack, but I'm trying to present important material or deep material that without humor can be very dry and hard to get through, in a similar manner to how SNL presents politics, in a way that is more digestible as opposed to, like, watching Wolf Blitzer on CNN, who can be kind of dry and monotoned. I learned that in 2008. The SNL skits, particularly about Sarah Palin, drew more people in than like the actual debates and stuff, and that led people to look up the factual information behind that comedy, that satire. And another person that I try to emulate in style is Bill Maher. He tries to present, heavy political topics with satire and comedy, often dark comedy, because he himself is a comedian and more talented than me, obviously, though I'm prettier. So I got that going for me, which is something. So, if you appreciate this comedic style, I thank you again for taking the time, and I hope that if one of my videos resonates with you, that you seek out, actual experts on the subject and do a deep dive into it, as I am not qualified to do so. These videos are, I'm not making statements. I'm doing satire and comedy, and it is for entertainment purposes only. So I can't give you, mental health advice other than to seek mental health if you feel you are in crisis. I can speak to how it has helped me, and I hope the same for you if you feel that you need to seek such help. And there are various ways to do so, and in my opinion, it does help, though it takes time, often longer than you want it to. Like everything else takes longer than you want it to. So, I want to get into today's topic, INFJ communication. INFJ communication, we're not the greatest at it in general. So, INFJs, we have a unique way of speaking. There is that disconnect from our introverted intuition into what actually comes out of our mouth. Our wording can be a little weird, and we can be a little long-winded at times because, as INFJs, we're often also empaths, and as empaths, we don't want something we say to be taken the wrong way. INFJs are very much overthinkers, and we'll overthink the shit out of something that is simple just because, we want it to come out just right. And on top of that, we're perfectionists, so what's in our head is different than what comes out often, and what comes out is never quite what we want it to be. If you've watched my videos, you see that. And, as I do these off the cuff, sometimes my jokes don't land. Sometimes they're taken the wrong way. I suppose that is, an occupational hazard of anyone who seeks to present any kind of comedy. And I've learned to, not let that bother me as much, because otherwise I'd never post any videos. And, you'd never see me again. And, some of you wouldn't like that. And I thank you for that. I feel loved. So, with INFJ communication, sometimes we struggle in that we like to read. We learn big words and we like to use them. Sometimes people don't understand them and take things that we say the wrong way. And this interjects into our chameleon nature, where in a group of people, we'll try to somewhat mirror them in order to A, empathize, and be understood. But sometimes we're not very good at it, because INFJs, at least those that didn't go to drama school, are terrible at pretending to be someone that we're not. So this can oftentimes lead to us being misunderstood. Things that we say get taken out of context, and then we, have that pit in our stomach and relentlessly overthink, even though, that was not our intent. That also triggers our natural introversion to speak less and withdraw more, which, although we do need our times to recharge, as all introverts do, we will withdraw beyond that quote recharge period and go into hermit mode, which is not good, because hermit mode just leads to NITI loops, and NITI loops are pretty much never a good thing because they're not healthy and we're not thinking clearly, because our extroverted feeling isn't being engaged, and it's just our introverted intuition and introverted thinking going around in loops and loops and loops and circles and circles and circles and trying to think our way out of something that rarely ever works out, though. So, with INFJ communication, understand that there are going to be times where you don't need to over explain yourself as much as you may feel to. Some people may even point that out to you. There are some one of my regular golfers at work often tells me that he's one of the people I confide in. He's sort of like a mentor of mine. He's a 70-something-year-old Jewish man from New York. Great guy. I wish he was my uncle. And he often says that you don't always have to be. I don't think he's an INFJ, but he is an introvert himself. And I think he's INFP, but that's just a theory. I don't really know. He often says, he's like, you don't have to always be on the defensive. He's like, you're an adult. You have the same rights as any other adult, regardless of what year they were born. And being that this guy's a boomer, that's pretty awesome, because he's not a baby boomer supremacist, unlike some members of my family. So that was very nice to hear, for to have someone, specifically of that age group. And this man has had his struggles in his life, partially due to, unfortunately, he has faced struggles in life for his Jewish faith, just being, a part of that religion, as far too many people of that religion often do, and that needs to stop. But, it was very, very nice to hear, like, somebody, like, validate me, validate, like, hey, I have struggled. Like, I went to college. I worked 70-hour weeks. I got good grades. Like, I did it all that I was told to do. The opportunity that once existed where I live just doesn't exist anymore. The factories and the steel mills and the paper mills are long gone. You can't apply to a job that closed decades ago. And some people around here don't seem to understand that, and it's frustrating when people want to believe that places that have been gone for over 2 decades still exist, but there are plenty of those who recognize what the reality is. And it's always nice to hear politicians do the same, like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and AOC and the whole squad, to be honest. And they often catch flack for that, as anyone who speaks out against the status quo does. And that leads me into my next point. INFJ communication, sometimes what you're saying isn't being taken out of context. They're just attacking it for what it is, and that usually is when you challenge the status quo of sometimes. AOC is a great example of that. She challenges the policies of the Democratic establishment and constantly gets smeared as a communist. They attack her for not knowing anything because of her age and because she worked as a bartender, even though AOC did, graduate university. It's not like she's not educated. She, like myself, like many of you who listen to this channel, had to find a way to survive in a broken system, a broken economy, as many of us that listen to this, came of age during, the Great Recession. That was our reality that we had no control over. So sometimes, there'll be miscommunications there as well. Just remember, INFJs, in your communication, I know sometimes we try to hide our emotions. Show your empathy towards other people, because even if, there's some disconnect between your brain and your mouth, there's nonverbal communication like facial expressions, and that often is more powerful than what you actually say. Don't try to impress people by using words you don't understand either, because that can go real bad. Yeah, or words from other languages, or words from other languages that you'll mispronounce and it'll be a completely different word. That no, no. Stick with, you know, uh, expressing your emotions, especially your empathy, in a clear and concise manner that, most people will be able to understand, so there's no question about what you're saying. And, especially when you're criticizing something, even if you're rightly criticizing it, like somebody believing, they are superior because of their skin tone or their religion or because of the year they're born, they may try to make you look like the bad guy. But it's like, no, like, you think you have extra rights because you're a part of this group. Like, no, just no. Everybody is equal, and the Constitution applies equally, to all, same protections and rights under the law. And that was cemented in recent history with a victory for the progressives by, I think it was 2012, right around there, when, that equal protection under the law finally, and long overdue, granted people of the LGBTQ community the right to get married. And I apologize for how I say that. For some reason, that's a tongue twister for me. That's why I usually just say gay, because, I'll stutter through that for some reason. I don't know the syllables and the pronunciation. It's just a tongue twister, and I don't know why. My friends in that community laugh at that all the time. They're like, just say gay. Sound like an idiot again. More so. Yeah. So, and they also like to have a go at me for being a demisexual. That seems to be the basis of a lot of jokes amongst my male friends, both, gay and straight. Because there's not that many of us male demisexuals. It's more of a female thing. But, with INFJ communication, be clear and concise. You know, obviously formulate it in your head first. There's no way around that. Try not to overthink it. You see me do that on the channel when I just kind of stare off like, what the hell was I going to say? How do I want to present this? How do I do this and sound less like an idiot? How do I sound, like I kind of know what I'm doing, and not just some, eccentric hack, who is sitting in front of a cheap tablet trying to help people, even though I'm a nobody. So I hope that helped with INFJ communication. It gets better over time. The older you get, the less you struggle with it. Confidence, of course, plays a role in it. Being confident with who you are and your own abilities, and your own intelligence and knowledge goes hand in hand. You know, if you look up facts and know facts, that's a big part of being an INFJ. And with INFJ communication is having the facts to back our arguments up and being able to cite them. That's always good. So, or to quote, the appropriate people at times, people that know more than us, know more than me. Like quote Kyle Kalinske a lot, especially when I talk about politics, because a lot of my videos are inspired by his, and he actually is a political pundit and has a degree in political science, so he knows what he's doing, and he's far more qualified to talk about politics than me. I'm just prettier with better hair. So, anyway, with INFJ Communication, trust your intuition with what you're going to say. Don't sell out your integrity and say something bigoted, sexist, racist, etc. No matter what group you're trying to fit in, any group that, puts other people down or believes that they are endowed with extra rights beyond others or deny any rights to other groups is not a group that any INFJ wants to be a part of.